Okay. All right, so first and foremost here, yesterday we were talking about sets and we were talking about functions themselves. So right, a domain and a range to a function, you know, what functions are. When you started, I think I alluded to the fact that this section is basically focused on linear types of functions, straight lines, right? And so what we were trying to get to yesterday, what I wanted to get to was what a linear function is. There's different types of linear functions, okay? There's different forms of them. So there is slope-intercept, right? That's the one that most people are probably comfortable with.
What is it?
So slope-intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b. Now, when you first look at it, it could be written a little bit different than this, where it could have an f of x here, and then mx plus b, where the m and b, these are actual numbers. That's fine, okay? But f of x and y mean the same thing to me. Why this is important, this is your slope, so that's your rate of change, like is you're rising and running, or falling and running. And then this number is the y-intercept, or what the book refers to as the vertical intercept, where it's hitting the y-axis. Okay, are we comfortable with what a slope-intercept is? Now, here's the thing.
So what does that mean?
Slope-intercept, it's just how a line is tilted. Okay, all right, now, here's the idea. If I give you something like this, what form is that written in?
Not slope-intercept.
Exactly right. It's not in slope-intercept, it's in standard or general, it's actually in general. How I know that? It's got a 0. So, the idea is that we have different forms. It's not written in this form. It would be nice if it was. You could rearrange it to get to this form, because this form is easy to draw. I could draw the y-intercept, I could go do the slope, it's easy to draw. I believe none of these problems will ask you to draw. They mostly ask you, like, what's slope here? What's the rate of change? What's its y-intercept? Move on to the next problem. Like, it's super easy stuff, because I just want you getting used to like the basic stuff. Like, can you interpret from an equation what you need to look for? Question?
They still got the answers in the back of the book.
Yeah, they saw the odds, I think. So. Okay, all right, number 2. The second type, standard. Let's get to that one. So this is one that most people kind of know. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. That's where a, b, and c, these are numbers. Now they could be ones, they could be negatives, preferably not decimals or fractions. Oh, you're good. You can walk anytime. You need to get going?
240.
Oh, okay. Just pay, that's right at the end of class. You're going to be fine.
That's Dalton's name.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Hey, if it's in standard, it looks a lot like this problem. The only difference would be they would move this 6 over to the other side, and then the x would be out front, but they could still be positive and negative. Question?
Can I text my boss real quick?
Yes. Okay, now, standard form, if you want to rearrange it, we could always rearrange it to slope-intercept. All you really have to do is move the x over, and then divide by the mean number. And then that would get to this form really quick. Then you can figure out what the slope is, what the y-intercept is. Now, why this is an important form is because for story problems, it's easy to say, okay, you're buying 4 apples, 3 bananas, and you're spending so much money. And then apples and bananas would be the cost of each one. So that's the idea. Like, it's great for story problems and like interpreting, but it's not really great for drawing and graphing. Now, third type is the one that I said earlier was general form. That's the one you're actually seeing on the board over there. So general form is where they have a 0 on the one side. It looks like standard, like almost to a T. The only difference is it has 0 on the one side, and I just switched the letter. If you move the C over, it becomes a negative C. But whatever this number is, I don't really care. These are numbers. You just have a 0 on the other side. Now, why we ever do this form is when we start factoring in like algebra 2 and pre-calc. We want 0 on the one side so you can factor it apart or whatever you need to do, complete the square, whatever. Okay, and then the last form, which is the one that we did in algebra 1, and we did a little bit in pre-calc. That would be point slope. Point slope form is the one where like you have a graph, and I need a formula for it, where it looks like this: y minus y1, mx minus x1. where this is a number, it's one of the coordinates that's on the graph, and this is the slope. So that's kind of the easy part. So you can go from a graph directly to a formula. But these are all linear, right? They're all straight lines. There's no curves to it. You can predict what will happen, 100 feet down the road, because all you have to do is plug 100 in for X and it'll spit out a Y number. It's very predictable. So these are the ones that are basically focused on today. So they're going to have you, interpret what slope is. And it could be as easy as, instead of, taking this and say, what's the slope of this one? They could give you a coordinate instead. And say, what's the slope of that coordinate, of these two? Like, what's the slope, what's the rate of change between them? So they're getting you used to like what a function is, how to look at the different parts of it. So if you ever had to find slope, remember this is your slope formula, it's y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So you subtract the y's on the top, x's on the bottom. I don't care the order that you do it. Typically what I always just tell you, just pick your y numbers, and whatever order you're going to subtract those y numbers, stick with that order. So if I'm going to go 5 minus 3, so I'm going back minus front. For the x's, go back minus front. Don't switch it up. Stick with the pattern you stuck with. So this ends up being 2 over 3, negative 2 over 3.
The formula that you just wrote, what is that?
That's slope. Okay, this is slope formula. Yep. Now, why I'm bringing this up, what most people don't know about calc is calculus is, it's the study of rate of change. That's really what it stands for. So slope is like one of the biggest topics in calc. It's literally what they discuss the entire semester, Calc 1 in college, or for what we're going to do for most of this year. They just teach you different ways of calculating slope, looking at why slope is important, why do we want to look at rate of change, so we can see, what will happen down the road. Because as we have curves, slope changes. It's not constant like a straight line would be. So, all right, questions on the basic stuff so far? I'm doing really generic terms here. I'm betting on probably most of the things they'll give you are like these two. And they're going to ask you to find slope on coordinates or find a y-intercept. If you had to find a y-intercept for that problem, that one, you'd have to find slope first, right? So my slope ended up being negative 2/3 x plus b, right? Because that's the 2 over negative 3. And then what I would do is I would pick one of the coordinates and plug it in. Plug in my coordinate, 1, 5, and then solve for b. That's what I would do. That's how I can find the y-intercept really quick. So it'd be what, 5 2/3, something like that, if I continue that problem. I multiplied by 1 and added the 2/3 across. All right, questions at all about the basic stuff we have? Now yesterday we talked about some other different things. We talked about how to look at a function if they gave you a formula and interpret what that function is actually saying to you. Like, if it tells you to plug in 35 years, what would that do? Why was it spitting out a certain answer? Because the answer is a function of time or something like that. So we talked about those yesterday. Today it was like, I want you to see this stuff. Now, out of all the stuff we've done yesterday and today, is there any questions you still have that you're not sure of? Because I'm telling you right now, the homework that we have today is insanely simple. It really is. I'm like over preparing you. Some real basic stuff today. Homework's on the board. It's page 7. It's really just interpreting lines. So you got number 5, 6, 9, 10, 12, 14, 18, 21, 23, and 26. This is probably the shortest turnaround you'll probably ever see for calc. For us, it's 2 days and it's due, just because this assignment is simple. It's pretty easy. I'll still make the answer key. I'm going to do work on that right now as you guys are working. It's just one of those things I want you to have some time. You can sit with other people, work, have your own piece of paper, but we'll turn this in Thursday. Book covers are due Thursday in case you want to recover your book, because some of you have already torn off the book cover that you had because you didn't like it, which is fine. Just make sure you get the book cover by Thursday. All right, questions at all about what we've done? Perfect. All right, turn off the camera. The rest of the time is yours. I think website's up to date as of this moment.